Foreign Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. As we return to our debate between former Labor Secretary Robert Reich and the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Chris Hedges, Juan Gonzalez and I spoke to them last week during the Democratic National Convention. Chris Hedges was with us in Philadelphia. Robert Reich joined us from the University of California, Berkeley, where he teaches. We started this section of the debate with a clip from Donald Trump's nomination speech at the Republican National Convention.
I have seen firsthand how the system is rigged against our citizens, just like it was rigged against Bernie Sanders. He never had a chance, never had a chance. But his supporters will join our movement because we will fix his biggest single issue, trade deals that strip our country of its jobs and strip us of our wealth as a country. Millions of Democrats will join our movement because we are going to fix the system so it works fairly and justly for each and every American.
That was Donald Trump talking at the convention in Cleveland. Robert Reich, interestingly, Donald Trump and Chris Hedges agree on one thing, that free trade deals that both the Republicans and Democrats have negotiated over the past few years, especially NAFTA, have been disastrous for the American people. You were part of the Clinton administration when NAFTA was passed. Talk about this, the impact that Trump is utilizing among white workers in America over the issue of free trade.
Well, Donald Trump is clearly using trade and also immigration as vehicles for making the people who have really been hurt by trade, by globalization, feel that he's going to somehow be on their side. He's not going to be on their side. Trump is right in the very, very narrow respect that trade has hurt very vulnerable people, working class people. The burdens of trade have been disproportionately fallen on those people who used to have good unionized jobs in America. And the failure of NAFTA and also the WTO, the World Trade Organization, Chinese ascension into the WTO, all of those Clinton-era programs, the failure was, number one, not to have nearly strong enough and enforceable enough labor and environmental side agreements. Number two, not to have adjustment mechanisms here in the United States for people who lost their jobs to help them get good jobs that were new jobs for the jobs they lost. The winners in trade could have compensated the losers and still come out ahead, but they did not. And that is a structural political problem in this country that we have to address. It is also a problem with regard to technological displacement. It's not just trade. Technology is displacing and will continue to displace and will displace even more good jobs in the future, but we have absolutely no strategy for dealing with that. And right now, the burdens of technological displacement are falling once again on the working middle class, lower income people who have very, very few alternatives, driving a greater and greater wedge between those who are lucky enough to be have rich parents or be well educated or be well connected and everybody else. We cannot go on like this is unsustainable. And Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders are symptomatic. Their rise are both symptomatic of this great wave of anti-establishment anger that is flooding American politics. Although on the one side you have authoritarian populism, and on the Bernie Sanders side you have a political revolution. I prefer the political revolution myself. I'm going to continue to work for that political revolution.
Well, I think we have to acknowledge two facts. We do not live in a functioning democracy, and we have to stop pretending that we do. You can't talk about, when you eviscerate privacy, you can't use the word liberty. That is the relationship between a master and a slave. The fact is, this is capitalism run amok. This whole discussion should be about capitalism. Capitalism does what it's designed to do when it's unfettered or unregulated, as it is, and that is to increase profit and reduce the cost of labor. And it has done that by deindustrialize the country, and the Clinton administration, massively enabled this. We're sitting here in Philadelphia. The last convention was in Cleveland. These are Potemkin villages where the downtowns are Disneyfied, and 3 and 4 blocks away, people are living in appalling poverty. We have responded to surplus labor, as Karl Marx says, in our deindustrialized internal colonies, to quote Malcolm X, by putting poor people of color in cages all across the country. Why? It's because surplus labor, corporate entities cannot make money off of surplus or redundant labor, but when you lock them in a cage, they make $40,000 or $50,000 a year. This is the system we live in. We live in a system where, under Section 1021 of the National Defense Authorization Act, the executive branch can put the soldiers in the streets in clear violation of the 1878 Posse Comitatus Act to carry out extraordinary rendition of American citizens who are deemed to be quote-unquote terrorists, strip them of due process, and hold them indefinitely in military facilities, including in our black sites. We are a country that engages in torture. We talk, Robert talks about, building movements. You can't build movements in a political system where money has replaced the vote. It's impossible. And the Democrats, their bedside manner is different from the Republicans. Trump is this kind of grotesque figure. He's like the used car salesman who rolls back to the speedometer. But Hillary Clinton is like, the managers of Goldman Sachs. They both engage in criminal activities that have, and Clinton's record, like Trump exposes this, that have preyed upon the most vulnerable within this country and are now destroying the middle class. And to somehow speak as if we are in a functioning democracy, or speak as if there are any restraints on capitalism, or speak as if the Democratic Party has not pushed forward this agenda. I mean, Obama has done this. He's been as obsequious to Wall Street as the Bush administration. There's no difference.
Robert Reich.
Chris, if I find this a frustrating conversation because I agree with so much of what you have said, but the question is, what do we do about it? We are in a better position today in the sense that Bernie Sanders has helped mobilize, organize, and energize a lot of Americans and educated a lot of Americans about the very issues that you have talked and written about and I have talked and written about. But it is the question is, what is the action? What is the actual political strategy right now? And I think the political. Well, let me just put in my 2 cents. I think political strategy is not to elect Donald Trump, to elect Hillary Clinton, and for 4 years to develop an alternative, another Bernie Sanders type candidate with an independent party outside the Democratic Party that will take on Hillary Clinton, assuming that she is elected and that she runs for re-election, and that also develops the infrastructure of a third party that is a true new progressive party.
Well, that's precisely what we're trying to do. There is a point where you have to, I want to keep quoting Ralph, but where you have to draw a line in the sand. And that's part of the problem with the left, is we haven't. I covered the war in Yugoslavia, and I find many parallels between what's happening in the United States and what happened with the breakdown of Yugoslavia. What is it that caused this country to disintegrate? It wasn't ancient ethnic hatreds. It was the economic meltdown of Yugoslavia and a bankrupt liberal establishment that, after the death of Tito, until 1989 or 1990, spoke in the language of democracy but proved ineffectual in terms of dealing with the plight of working men and women who were cast out of state factories, huge unemployment, finally hyperinflation. And the fact is that these neoliberal policies, which the Democratic Party is one of the engines for, have created this right-wing fascism. You can go back, this proto-fascism. You can go back and look at Weimar, and a republic was very much the same. So it's completely counterintuitive. Of course I find Trump a vile and disturbing and disgusting figure, but I don't believe that voting for the Democratic establishment. And remember that the two insurgencies, both within the Republican Party, were against figures like Hillary Clinton, who spoke in that traditional feel-your-pain language of liberalism while assiduously serving corporate power and selling out working men and women. And they see through the con. They see through the game. I don't actually think Bernie Sanders educated the public. In fact, Bernie Sanders spoke for the first time as a political candidate about the reality the public was experiencing, because even Barack Obama, in his State of the Union address, was talking about economic recovery and everything was wonderful, and people know that it's not. And when let me just finish. Let me finish. When you dispossess that segment, as large as we have, half the country now lives in virtual poverty, and you continue to essentially run a government that's been seized by a cabal, in this case corporate, which uses all of the machinery of government for their own enrichment and their own further empowerment at the expense of the rest of the citizenry, people finally react, and that is how you get fascism. That is what history has told us. And to sit by every time, Robert, you speak, you do exactly what Trump does, which is fear, 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 fear. And the fact that we are going to build some kind of amorphous movement after Hillary Clinton, it's just not the way it works.
Let me try to inject. Let me try to inject some hope in here in this discussion rather than fear. I've been traveling around the country for the last 2 years, trying to talk to Tea Partiers and conservatives and many people who are probably going to vote for Donald Trump to try to understand what it is that they are doing and how they view America and why they are acting in ways that are so obviously against their self-interest, both economic self-interest and other self-interest. And here's the interesting thing I've found. This great anti-establishment wave that is occurring both on the left and the right has a great overlap, if you will, and that overlap is a deep contempt for what many people on the right are calling crony capitalism. In fact, many people on the left have called crony capitalism. And those people on the right, many working people, they're not all white. Many of them are working class. Many of them have suffered from trade and technological displacement and a government that is really turning its back on them, they feel, and to some extent they're right. Many of them feel as angry about the current system and about corporate welfare and about big money in politics as many of us on the progressive side do. Now, if it is possible to have a multiracial, multi-ethnic coalition of the bottom 90% that is ready to fight to get big money out of politics, for more equality, for a system that is not rigged against average working people, where there are not going to be all of these redistributions upward from those of us who have paychecks, and we don't even realize that larger and larger portions of those paychecks are going to big industries, conglomerates, concentrated industries that have great market power because it's all hidden from view. Well, the more coalition building we can do from right to left, multi-ethnic, multiracial, left and right, to build a movement to take back our economy and to take back our democracy.
Robert, I'd just like to interrupt you for a second because we only have a minute left, and I just wanted to ask Chris one last question in less than a minute, if you can. Regardless of you're voting for Jill Stein, other folks are going to vote for Clinton and Trump. Where do you feel this massive movement that has developed over the last few years, this people movement, would have a better opportunity to grow under a Trump presidency or under a Clinton presidency, assuming that one of those two will eventually be elected?
I don't think it makes any difference. The TPP is going to go through whether it's Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. Endless war is going to be continued whether it's Trump or Clinton. We're not going to get our privacy back whether it's under Clinton or Trump. The idea that at this point the figure in the executive branch exercises that much power, given the power of the war industry and Wall Street, is a myth. The fact is,
even on immigration.
I'm sorry. What?
Even on immigration.
What on immigration? I mean, let's look at Obama's record on immigration. Who's worse?
10 seconds.
I mean, you know, you can't get worse than Obama.
I mean,
just say something? The Democrats speak.
Robert Reich, 10 seconds.
I just want to say, equating Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton is absolute nonsense. Anybody who equates the two of them is not paying attention, and it's dangerous kind of talk.
That's not what I did.
We're going to have to leave it there, but this is a discussion that will continue. And that debate held during the Democratic convention. Chris Hedges is a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist. His most recent book, Wages of Rebellion, The Moral Imperative of Revolt. Robert Reich served as Labor Secretary under President Clinton as a professor at the University of California, Berkeley. His most recent book, Saving Capitalism for the Many, Not the Few. Today, the Green Party convention opens in Houston, Texas. To get a copy of the show, you can go to democracynow.org.